Daniel is a doctor. He lives in the countryside and uses the internet every day on different devices. He exchanges information with his patients and with colleagues at the hospital. And he is not the only one who goes online at home. Alex also does. Julia works in another country. The family speaks via video conference in the evening. In a couple of years, technology could change the way the whole family works, studies, and spends time together. But for this to happen, they will need much better and faster connectivity. Thanks to first-class fixed and wireless communications networks, Julia now works from home too. She still works for the same international company, but now works simultaneously with other colleagues on the same platform, and their data is in the cloud. At Daniel's hospital, remote surgery happens almost every day. Patients who need very specialized treatment do not have to travel far from home to receive the best care. 5G technology makes this possible. And what about the kids? Anna is now at secondary school and is discovering new planets and historical places like never before, thanks to virtual reality. Alex is running his grandparents' farm with the help of connected technologies. He produces delicious organic food thanks to sensors that make sure the crops get the right amount of water, drones to keep an eye on the plants and land, perfectly targeted thanks to data connected through Galileo and GPS. To make this digital future possible, the Commission has reshaped EU telecom rules to encourage investment in very high-capacity broadband networks. Digital opportunities, breaking down barriers in the digital single market.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the workshop on Gigabit Society. You've seen the details of the vision and the elements of how it may actually affect people's life in this little video. I'm not going to take the time from you because this workshop is primarily to let you know the details of what we are doing and to ask your views about how we can do it better and how we can engage more stakeholders, more people into making this vision a reality. So my role is just to welcome you, to thank you for your support in the past, to ask for your support in the future, and to introduce Claire Berry, who is our Deputy Director General, who is going to introduce our afternoon.
So thank you very much, Anna, for those words of introduction. It's my pleasure, too, to welcome you here to the Digital Assembly in Bratislava, and in particular to this workshop on the Gigabit Society. I think the video you saw there showed us maybe a projection into the future and what things might look like in 2025. So that's what we've been thinking about in the Commission over the last few months. And we've tried to set some strategic objectives for 2025. We've looked at what we think may be the needs for the connectivity of the future, and we've therefore adopted the so-called connectivity package, and we're proposing a number of initiatives. First of all, we have 3 new connectivity-specific objectives, which replace, but at the moment, they still remain valid, the digital assembly targets, but our idea is that we need to go beyond 2020 now, and we need to look to 2025. So we've set what we think are 3 objectives for an overarching framework. The first is related to the main places of public life, so schools, transport hubs, and main providers of public services, as well as digital enterprises, who we think should have, by 2025, access to gigabit connectivity. We carefully selected these places of public life because they think that if we invest in those places and we get the connectivity there, then that will have a radiating effect into other places. The second thing is European households. You'll all remember the targets from the digital agenda. But now we're aiming for households not just in urban areas, but also in rural areas. And we think they should have access to connectivity, offering a download speed of at least 100 Mbps, and which can be upgraded to gigabyte connectivity. And last, but by no means least, all urban areas, as well as major roads and railways, should have uninterrupted 5G coverage. So next few years, when you take the taxi from Vienna to Bratislava, hopefully you will have 5G all the way here and no variations. And there, our ideas are to set targets by 2020, and we already have some member states who are being very ambitious and targeting some of their cities already for 2018. And the second part of the package is the European Electronic Communications Code. we've merged the 4 existing directives, and we want to build on the existing acquis so that we have the healthy competition that we've always had in the framework between operators, but also we have a framework which will encourage investment for that connectivity that we need by 2025, including, where necessary, through joint deployments. So this is a real innovation in the framework, and one which we hope you will actively debate today. The third element of the package is a regulation on the BEREC, or the Body of European Regulators, where we think it's time to transform BEREC now into an agency. Again, I'm sure there will be lots of views on that today, but our idea is that we need to upgrade the regulators too, so that they can deal also in an interconnected way. Fourth, we have an initiative to support local communities in providing free public Wi-Fi to their citizens, which we call Wi-Fi for EU. It's interesting, on the way into Bratislava, people on the bus saying, we've got free Wi-Fi here. This is the kind of thing that people are looking for. And the Commission, President Juncker announced it in his State of the Union speech, that the EU should be playing a key role in making sure that we pump and front-load cities and rural areas and smaller communities so that they're able to provide free Wi-Fi. And last, but by no means least, we have an action plan to deploy 5G. We need to accelerate, of course, and coordinate this deployment in Europe, hopefully learn some of the lessons of what's happened with 4G, be in advance on what's happening. And we here need to work with industry very much in terms of removing the obstacles to rolling out 5G and having European leadership in that area. But as I said at the beginning, most importantly, the new code, the new consolidation of the legislation puts additional emphasis on competition to invest, ensuring that all the market actors have chances to invest. There's a new focus on investment in the next generation and very high capacity networks. Of course, we must also take with us the vulnerable citizens and territories so that we don't have a digital divide. We need to bridge this divide by the next decade. We expect and we hope that long-term investors will find this new regulatory framework gives them additional certainty and is appealing and means that they will want to make the investments. But at the same time, the Commission has announced policy and financial initiatives to support the vision and the targets that we've set out, including steps to simplify existing funding and to try and leverage and blend funding so that we can make the most of it. So we want to put in place the right incentives with various funding schemes. First of all, 6 billion programmed for broadband projects under the structural funds by 2020. Secondly, of course, we have the European Investment Plan, the so-called Juncker Plan. We're now moving to the second phase of that. We mobilize the expertise of the EIB, and we have 4 major broadband projects. We'll double FC to make sure that we keep the momentum. And finally, of course, we have the Connecting Europe facility, with which I think you're all familiar with, which will address broadband projects, both in terms of equity and quasi-equity funding. The CEF is also going to provide the funds for the new Wi-Fi initiative, and we are working towards a scheme which will be unbureaucratic and work quickly. Don't laugh, this is the European Union, but we are anxious and sure in this case that we will deliver a scheme which is simple and which works quickly and easily. But all this work that we're doing, the framework, the funding, the Wi-Fi initiative, is nothing without you, all of you in this room today, the stakeholders. We need your investment, both in terms of money, but we need your investment in terms of energy and support to get this package through and in place. So we're going to look at various aspects of the package in the workshops. We'll have, first of all, a panel discussion, and then we will break out into smaller groups in the so-called World Café format so you can have a more detailed discussion. I very much hope that today you will participate actively. We try to arrange things so that that really gives you an opportunity to do so. But today is just the beginning of a journey that we make with these proposals. I hope you will tell us, you will share with us the vision, and you will help us find the right steps to get there today. So thank you very much for participating.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Claire, for that introduction. Let me just check that my mic is functioning. I think the echo in my ear says that it is. And let me also thank you all, as Claire did, for coming along this afternoon. What we will seek to do in this first half of the rest of the session is to have an exchange with my co-panelists, whom we have very deliberately drawn from different walks of life, which are relevant to both the supply and the demand side for gigabit connectivity in Europe over the next 10 years. Many of the measures which Claire has outlined from the Commission package are inevitably focused on the supply side because they are directly addressed to the sector which puts in place connectivity, but they of course need a demand pull which cannot be so easily legislated into existence, and they need of course to be able to call upon the financial sector with interesting arguments as to why these investments make sense. So briefly introducing our panelists from my right to left, so obviously from your left to right. We have Jan Kubalik, who I give you the short form introduction. Everyone has long and interesting CVs, but among other things, Jan is very much leading on the PPP for broadband with a focus on Southeastern Europe, which has particular challenges. Next is Nicolas Merigo from Marguerite Advisory, so very much exposed to the challenges of various forms of infrastructure investment, not just in our sector, but in areas such as energy and climate change as well. Here on my immediate right is Beata Brestenska, who is active with Microsoft here in Slovakia, but very much in the education sector and in developing the digital aspect of education, which is, of course, a main public center for multiple users of gigabit connectivity. On my left is Marta Izquierdo, who is from, broadly speaking, the creative sector, Director of European and Institutional Affairs with digital entertainment, with a focus on areas such as animation. And we all know that content is king in driving demand, so Marta certainly has things to tell us about driving demand. Finally, on my extreme left, François Fischer from ERTICO, which is focused on software development in relation to the automotive industry in areas such as cooperative systems and eCall. It is, I think, no secret to anyone. Excuse me?
Mr. Merigo, did you don't present?
I think
Yes,
I did. And, well, we know the interest that our commissioner has for connected cars. So as a key driver for the connectivity demand along the major transport arteries, which, as Claire mentioned, are mentioned in our overall strategic objectives for 2020. So the format is one where I will try to tease out from our various panelists, from their rather different perspectives, how we can build the case for connectivity deployment to the gigabit level, knowing that there is no deployment incentive if there is not adequate take-up, and indeed the social and economic benefits of it don't materialize unless there is widespread take-up. We will then try to inject a couple of keywords to kickstart the second round of discussion, which is among yourselves. So this is very much the prosumer model. You also have to help produce policy insights and not just consume them in this session. In that sense, we are also, I think, very much in the digital age. So let me set the ball rolling by picking a question for Jan. So Jan is at the coalface in particular of rural. I mean, how does something like the PPP for broadband contribute to better connectivity in rural areas, which we know are a major challenge? And what impacts have you seen from the work you have done in the communities you serve?
Thank you, Anthony. It's on, yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Anthony, for that question and also for a great introduction. Let me also say I'm happy to be here, so thanks a lot for Anna, Nancy, and her team for inviting me. The first two sentences, I just would like to shortly introduce the PPP for Broadband initiative, just to know a little bit for all of you what we are talking about. So that's an initiative in the Southeast Europe, which brought together in the facilitation phase 9 countries. Currently we have 10 members from 10 countries. We extended to Czech Republic. And our aim is to boost the development of the broadband by combining public and private financing. That's the mission. So what we did so far, this is a short recap, and then how we contribute to the development, is that, okay, we have 9 national centers of excellence which are here to provide the support for the public procurers in case they would like to opt for this combining of the public-private financing. Then we already designed 3 projects which total amount about 3 million euros, covering 30,000 citizens in 3 different countries. There are 2 projects originated from our initiative, which are going to be supported, hopefully, from the Connected Community Initiative. The broadband plan design for 70 municipalities across the Central Eastern Europe was also done as a part of the work. And, well, there is a participation in mapping process in 3 countries. And also 1 research cooperation ongoing. What is most important is, of course, the benefit for the citizens. So coming to the question, what actually broadband is bringing in the rural areas? But maybe in that moment, 1 question to you all. Please, could you raise the hand who lives in the cities from the audience? Well, who lives in village? Okay, we are here the minority, but what I would like to say, okay, so if we are talking about bringing the broadband to the rurals, we are saying actually that we allow to the people living there to live the same life as the guys who are living in the cities. What does it mean? Let's say in this as a sample, how it is in my family. I have a very young daughter, below 2 years. She loves YouTube, she loves the fairy tales there. When she switches on the YouTube, she of course consumes a kind of the broadband. And it's just the 1 moment when we have the peace as a parents. So in that moment, I sit aside of the computer, and what I do is that I connect to our cloud systems in the company and synchronize the data, which means it's not just a download, but also a very big demand to upload. In the same time, my wife, which is a foreigner in my country, has a chance to watch the news, which is, of course, watching through the internet, another demand. If you live in the rural area where it's not developed, the next generation, and says you have no chance to do it, simply it will be blocking the YouTube for my daughter. She will be screaming. It means there will be no peace for us to do our work. So what allows us, the deployment of the high-speed broadband, is to live the same life as those who live in the cities. So this is the social economic benefit, I would say, to the people who live in the villages or in the rural or excluded areas, let's say. What does it mean for the privates? I mean not the families now, but the businesses. We all talk about the need of the knowledge economy, and knowledge economy comes with the infrastructure. It's not about the roads, it's about the broadband. So the broadband actually allows the fact that in the rural areas can stay also high qualified forces, because there is a possibility to develop the businesses which are more demanding according to some, let's say, other infrastructure than the roads like a broadband. And of course, it also allows to stay there the companies who need to be connected to the future supply chains of the Industry 4.0, because otherwise there will be again the drain of the opportunities out of there. And talking about the governments, of course it allows the government to offer the high quality e-government services, or also allow them to offer e-learning services if they would like. And mainly also, as we are talking about the health services, or it was seen in the introduction video, the health services or e-health services definitely requires good broadband. Well, where the e-health services are mostly needed, in excluded area. What is a precondition? Again, a broadband. So we hope that by our initiatives, where we are focusing on the excluded areas, we are bringing the same opportunities to the people. They are living there, and by that we hope that we can a little bit contribute to the fact that there will be no brain drain and no movement so much from these areas to the cities, because there will be possible to live, to do the business, and to get the same quality of e-services as in the capitals. All from my side. Thanks a lot for the question again.
Thanks, Jan. Let me, now that we are beginning to bite into the substance, let me just say that everything we are doing now is being web streamed. That's important for the folks at home, wherever you are. It's also, of course, important that everyone in the room knows that there's a bigger public than those they see. Secondly, I should mention that you are very cordially invited to participate via Twitter and to retweet what is happening here. Our hashtag is hashtag DA16 Gigabit. So please consume freely via Twitter. Let me now go to Nicolas. And we've already heard a little bit the many benefits of rural broadband to those communities. From the financial perspective, what do you see as the challenges for financial investors to invest in rural broadband, and what might be seen by them as perhaps lowering the barriers?
Thanks, Anthony. Well, first, just quickly, Marguerite, a couple of words about Marguerite, just in case some of you aren't aware. Marguerite is a fund that was set up about 6 years ago to invest in greenfield infrastructure in the transport and energy sectors in the EU. So we invest mostly in PPP type opportunities. The last deal that we invested in was a broadband deal in France. It's the first large PPP that's been financed with project finance on a non-recourse basis. Now, France has a very well-structured framework for promoting rural broadband and has already launched several PPPs. This PPP in particular will provide fiber to 380,000 homes in the region of Alsace. In this case, we supported a consortium of private companies, a construction company and an operator that wanted to bid on this project but didn't have enough equity to do it on their own. So we filled an equity gap. But we also brought our expertise, having invested in many other types of PPP projects in the transport and energy sectors around Europe, to help them build a project or a business case that was financeable. And we were able to bring in a group of commercial lenders, also with some support from the EIB, to provide a fully funded bid. And that closed in April. Construction will be starting soon. So our role in this has been kind of a pathfinder role. It's similar to what we've done in the past in other sectors. So, for example, offshore wind, where we were one of the first financial investors to invest in offshore wind. Now there are lots of investors that want to invest in offshore wind. So our role has been to to help other investors recognize that this is an interesting sector, that there are a lot of similarities with other types of infrastructure, and to gradually reach the point where broadband infrastructure is considered part of another subsector within the infrastructure asset class, which will bring investors and lenders, hopefully, to many other projects around Europe. One of the biggest challenges around these projects is, of course, the fact that the risks are new or they're unfamiliar to many investors. So, for example, you have, in some cases, volume risk. There's technology or obsolescence risk. These are risks that have to be explained and understood by investors and lenders. The other issue often is the size. A lot of these projects are too small for investors or lenders to be interested in, so there has to be some effort at aggregating those projects by public authorities so they're big enough to be of interest to those type of investors. So we hope to continue in fulfilling that pathfinder role with some other projects around Europe, and would be happy to talk to anybody who has projects of that type who would like our support.
So thank you, Nicolas. Perhaps I would jump now to Marta. We, I think, know intuitively that high quality and fast connectivity can have transformative effects on how content is, not only in how it is distributed, but perhaps also how it is created. Is that intuition right?
Yeah, that's right. I would also like to point out a little bit more about myself or the company I represent. It is a group of companies around the creative industries, as you said. We have an animation studio that has more than 350 people working on it for a Paramount production. We also have a games studio, and we do have a university that came out 5 years ago, and that has now more than 1,000 students, which is called UTAD. So we all know that technology has made possible the creation of really innovative and good content and services. But all this content couldn't have been possible if it couldn't be distributed and it could be consumed by the user. Right now, we do have connections at home, but the truth is that almost all Europeans have connections below 30 megabits per second. That means that it's good enough to download a movie or to watch TV streaming, but it's not good enough to consume other kinds of content, like virtual reality or IoT or cloud computing, many other things. One clear example on how connectivity helped a sector is on the game industry. The game industry that started in the 70s has evolutionated a lot. And there were several factors that helped for it. One was the hardware, that users could have the consoles and different devices to consume this kind of content in a cheaper way. The other one was the software, of course, that allowed the companies to develop new and innovative services. But connectivity was a key factor for them. Now it is very usual to see online movie games, play multiplayer games. But this helped the industry even to fight against piracy, because when being allowed to play with your friends, you need to have a license to do so. So this provided this fight against piracy and also new business models like freemium projects where people can download the app and then pay for different services. So what comes out of all of this is that people, when coming to consume content, what they are looking for is not just a product or a service. They want to have a whole experience. And that experience becomes even better if you can share it with your friends or even with someone that is in the other part of the world. And, of course, a key and important issue is also interactivity. Interaction not with others, but also with the content. So Regarding interactivity, for example, one technology that is at the center of the development of content right now, not just in games, but of course in other sectors like health, education, journalism, is virtual reality. Virtual reality provides a new and different kind of experience. And in order to have this kind of technology deployed, we need to have the connectivity enough for the consumer to consume it. So virtual reality has the potential to be one of the disruptive technologies for a decade. So again, we need the connection together with the development of the hardware and devices for the users to consume it, and the software to develop this kind of content. So another key issue would be the data flow. Of course, there is huge amounts of data around. We've seen it. But with these connections, you know, this is really important for industry. When you see, for example, on the music industry, the music has used these data-driven technologies in order to take decisions. For example, I saw a Spotify presentation not too long ago where they said that 80% of the times they were wrong about what they thought the consumer wanted. Thanks to these technologies, they can offer new and innovative services and, you know, approach the consumer better. And another way of creating content is through the user, because user, as I said, is not anymore a passive user. The user interacts with other people and with the content, and they even provide this content. So I wanted also to appoint that very, very important for the user to have this connection. It's not just that the industry provides the connection, but also the prices. The truth is that consumers have got into their houses this broadband because prices went down, and we can also see it with the roaming. Roaming went down since 2008, and broadband roaming data went up like 100 times. So price is also a good thing to have in mind.
Thank you, Marta. A lot to chew on there. You were closing on the issue of the user, which brings me to a term which Beata has coined in her work, the term humanware. I think it would be useful to share with the audience what the humanware concept involves, and how this soft concept can be linked to something as hard as digital infrastructure.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you for the invitation. I work more than 30 years at communist universities. It's the oldest university in Slovakia. I'm very proud for it. And in my life, I retrained a lot of teachers and have many experiences. Many my colleagues who sit here and know me also for the parliament that I was fighting, and I was a member of the parliament and fighting for the education and informatization of society. And after these 30 years, then I have a lot of experience. I retrained 54,000 teachers in Slovakia, and was many good examples. And I start to understand that really for future, also Europe, for digital society, gigabit society, is important to not only the connectivity. The connectivity is the first point, but the second point is the human there. And if you look for the definition of the human, where I looking the website and the Google and so, there's many definitions, but looking for more for the technical point of view. How to join to hardware and software and collaborate together, and how to help the user to use the hardware and software. But for my point of view, the humanware must be a higher level about the human activity with the digital tools. I look at two ways now in education. Maybe in Slovakia, but it's the same, I think, is the whole Europe and whole world. It is a creative digital competence or digital dementia. And this is about the humanware. For example, then we started in 2000 in Slovakia the first national project in InfoH. in the green grass, that we start to connect the school to the internet, and after the 4 years, we connect all the school in Slovakia together with the telecom. It was a virtual network. It was the best network in 2004. And the school was the center of education, not only the student and teacher, but comes the parents, comes the local government, comes the church to the school, comes the municipality to the church, to the school, and educate in the school about the digital society. And after the student then come back at home and ask the parents, why we have not such connectivity at home? And this is also this aspect of the humanware, that if we prepare the people how to use, and now I will be defined this is humanware from my point of view, it is the highest level, the added level of the digital technologies, that we start to understand that I'm looking for the, maybe for the education area, that the teacher start to use the technology for the not often growing up, but also so a creative leading the process of education. Not to use the digital technology and the software when we put to the school, but I'm thinking how the different devices can me help to increase the quality of the cognitive process. And this is my point to see the humanware. And now we start to discuss how we prepare the next generation of the teachers. And now we're discussing also with the private sector, maybe with the Microsoft, how we prepare the incubator of innovative teachers who start to understand what is the added level of the digital technologies, how to change the society. And also is a very important the connectivities. And we're sitting together now and discussing about the connectivity. Also in Slovakia, now is an opposite situation. 10 years before was the schools have excellent connectivity. Now have a more better connectivity at home. And now the student asks why we have not in the school such good connectivity, because we have a digital content and we can now to use the digital content. And this is also collaboration with some institution, also with Ministry of Education, and we prepare the new strategy of the EduNet to increase the connectivity and so. But for my experiences, is we must join together the connectivity and the humanware. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beata. Well, I think we got on your wavelength with at least one of our strategic objectives, because the idea of using lead institutions within communities as drivers for the general demand pull in those communities, and we basically turn the students into our avant-garde is very much part of our thinking as well. Finally, in this first round, I turn to François. Automotive is hard in a way that creative or educational activities may be sometimes qualified as soft. But of course, in reality, the connectivity challenges may be similar. But what sort of automotive applications do you see as being enabled by much better connectivity, by gigabit connectivity along our transport networks?
Thank you. First, maybe, because I'm supposed to represent the industry, and you have said I'm automotive, it's very interesting to mention the work done by 5G PPP on needs and concern, and they have treated 5 different verticals, and they came with a common report about needs, requirement from the industry, meaning that across different industry sectors we have very similar needs. I'm not sure we will have specific network for the automotive. Beyond automotive, I would like also to say that ERTICO is present with its stakeholder in other sectors like transport, which is going beyond automotive, with its transport of goods and persons. So freight and logistics is a very important sector for connectivity, and also mobility. So mobility is at the level of applications. Of course, there are specific needs for automotive, which have been identified, certainly because automotive is also dealing with, how to say, safety critical application. So we can accept bugs and hacking on mobile phone, eventually lose some money because of issue with banking application. It's very hard to accept best effort for automotive in terms of connectivity. And that's why the commissioner put in some focus on automotive for 5G, because we have very challenging needs. However, I'm very confident because if you look first, our stakeholder in ERTICO concerning automotive, we have all important industry players in the IT, in the telecommunication industry, telecom operator. So all the industry work together to provide suitable solutions for the different sectors. One also important technology for the future is IoT. I think we have a session close to this one, and thanks to IoT, in the next 5 years, we will see at least 10 times more connected objects, and this object will have to upload data, and they will certainly explode the volume of data. And that we need to ensure this data will be transmitted timely in automotive application, but that's the same in health application. You have this introduction with robots. It's about real time, so we have a very strong requirement of delay. Reliability is also very important, so we will need to rely on the application developed on top of connectivity, and that's the role of IoT. So connectivity is a lower layer for IoT. But IoT will bring more means to ensure security, more means to aggregate data coming from the different objects, and federate this data for different cloud applications. And then again, we have a drawback. We will create more application, and this application will also send data back to the user. So this will again explode the volume. So Gigabit is definitively a key enabler. I think yesterday a few automotive players and IT players have announced the creation of an association of 5G. Yeah? And this shows definitively the interest of the car industry and the IT industry to move together. So I'm very confident we will make use of gigabit connectivity in the next years, and we hope to get it.
Thank you, François. Let me now pass back to Jan. And we have heard the many important, in fact, vital things which will be enabled by better connectivity. I think the message across various sectors is this is important for everyone, so the connectivity should be everywhere and to high standards, obviously. But those deploying it need to be able to convince people to fund them. How have you experienced the capital gathering process with financial or other sources to fund your projects, and what lessons do you draw from that?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Do you expect the answer it was easy, or do you more expect the answer it was hard?
I expect something like it was hard, but someone like Nicolas can make it easier. But let's see.
Okay. Well, okay, you are right in the first part. Of course, it's generally hard, and by saying a little bit more stories about that, I will be also drawing or pointing out some lessons learned by that. the first thing is that when we start to do our work, it was 2013. Okay, so imagine that you went in 2013 to some public administration and say, hey guys, we have a good way how to settle the things down, how to deploy the broadband in your excluded area. We are able to leverage your fund by the private. The listener doesn't say, okay, good, but we worked in EU member state, but also outside. And EU member state was the answer that, okay, but there are no structural funds ready for that. So what we expect that the privates will do it. And we say, oh, well, look, guys, the point why we are talking is that there is a market gap. So the privates generally are not by themselves interested to do it. And they say, okay, well, now we can't contribute anyhow. Funny is that when you come to them now, when the structural funds are on, the answer from that public is, yeah, well, we have structural funds for that. We don't need the privates. And you need to come to them and explain, okay, but when you work together with privates, then you maybe can leverage the funds, that you will have more opportunities to, or more, let's say, more impact, that you have more money available. So generally, it was not somehow too easy. But you know, as we have the members in our network, not just in EU member states. We have also from two countries who are not in EU. One is Serbia, and the second one is Macedonia. And Macedonia, our members of the network came to the city or village called Macedonska Kamenica. I guess that you never heard about it before. It's somewhere on the border with Romania. And there was a quite progressive mayor, and he said, okay, well, guys, we have here the mine. The mine is bringing quite a big amount of taxes to our budget. I'm fine to allocate 200K to the deployment. And you go, wow. So that's the approach. So it's really a lot depending on with whom you are talking, and really a lot depending on the personality of the people who is in charge of the public administration in the region or at the local level or even the national level. But generally, what I can say as some kind of lessons learned, what I'm repeating at all the actions, and somebody likes it and somebody dislikes, but it's simply the opinion coming out from a couple of years in this business, is that structural funds is a very nice thing, but it's a coin of both sides, and dependence on the structural funding is something which might be a little bit dangerous for some area, especially in our part of the world. And the second thing, when we are talking about the cooperation between the public and private, in the matter of the financing of something, I would say that unfortunately it seems still sometimes that the privates are more ready to cooperate with publics than the publics with the privates. When we are talking about the new member states, also what we learned is that simply attitude towards public-private partnership, knowledge at the side of the public procurers. Okay, so sorry, the attitude, it's not good, it's not positive. Knowledge is sometimes not high, which is of course also influencing the attitude, because if you don't know too much about something, you are potentially afraid of that, or you have a little bit negative connotation about this. So what we learned, that the knowledge is key. So that's also the reason why we are quite happy that the concept of the Center of Excellencies, which we established in the different countries, is a useful tool, because it's it's helping to overcome this problem. And of course, what we learn, and I think that all of you know, it's everything about the people. And as a PPP for broadband is actually working with a 10 distributed team across the 10 European countries. It's also somehow important, I think, now to somehow pay a tribute to all of these members of the team. Actually, some of them are even sitting here. So yeah, thank you all for great work on this initiative. And also thank you guys in Brussels who are giving the support of us, not financial, but all advices which you are giving to us are quite important. So these are, I would say, lessons learned and some experiences with raising the funds.
So thanks, Jan. And you have described experiences with direct funding authorities in the member states, and an issue that we have encountered ourselves with structural fund implementation over the years. These projects are not necessarily as well known to public administrations as types of infrastructure with which the public sector has been typically associated, such as transport infrastructure. This is my occasion to do a plug for a fairly recent initiative by the Commission for broadband competence officers, a network within each member state that would also be facilitated by the Commission in order to help develop those sorts of competences for project management in relevant public administrations. But of course, increasingly, when we think of public involvement in the more difficult areas, we are not thinking only of grants administered by local authorities. We are also thinking of the role of financial instruments, and that's perhaps one of the points that Nicolas might perhaps wish to comment further on, developing on your previous remarks on the role of funds like Marguerite in overcoming the financing challenge and doing so in a financially efficient manner.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's important that the successful examples be communicated to other countries and or other regions, because the frameworks across Europe are very different and are evolving from very early stages. So, for example, in France, where I said earlier we did our first deal, the framework is very clear. There's certain regions of France which have been designated as regions which don't attract private operators investment and require some kind of public support. And in those regions, in some of those regions, PPPs have been launched, and they're awarded on the basis of the lowest subsidy. So that stimulates competition amongst private operators and even the incumbents who can also participate in these tenders to provide the infrastructure at the lowest cost for the public authority, and thereby lowering the subsidy and making the use of subsidies more efficient or spreading them across various different regions. Now, from what we've seen, there are other countries or other regions who are starting also to develop their broadband plans. Some don't seem to be as efficient. For example, I won't say the country, but there is one country where basically they're saying, okay, the public authorities are going to build all the infrastructure. There is going to be some tendering to get the best prices, but there isn't competition on getting the lowest subsidy. So they're not involving the private sector in the same way as they're being involved in France. So I think a lot of effort needs to be made to explain the successful models in other countries around Europe, and that takes time, and people have to be willing to listen, because often people think that their country or their region is the smartest, and there's no reason why they have to think or listen to what has been done in the rest of Europe. And this is true in all different sectors, not just broadband, but in other greenfield sectors. We invested in an energy from waste plant, which was one of the first successful PPPs in that sector in Poland. Everybody thought there would be 5 more projects in 3 or 4 different regions over the next 2 years. So far, there haven't been any more projects. Why? Because the other mayors or the other municipal authorities weren't interested in listening to or learning from the experience of the Poznan municipal authorities. So I think that's politics. So there's a lot of learning, a lot of sharing of best practices that has to happen, and I would encourage everybody to, those who aren't aware or haven't looked at the French model, that they look at it carefully, because I think it has been quite successful.
Thanks, Nicolas. Well, indeed, a red thread running through what you just said, and something that we often underline is that the role of public actors and public infrastructure funding can sometimes be to develop models which are then replicable. We may not put huge amounts of capital on them in the beginning, but if we show that it works, then hopefully you can replicate that and draw in increasing amounts of private capital. But of course, people need to be willing to learn the lessons from those projects. Beata, from your perspective, given the centrality of humanware, of actually developing the users, you mentioned the sort of leapfrogging that took place in Slovakia, that the schools started out having the best connectivity. The residential clients have now moved ahead because I guess there was competing infrastructure investment. Now it is the schools that are behind. Overall, be it in Slovakia or elsewhere, are we investing enough in digital infrastructure to realize the potential of education and of humanware?
Thank you for this question. I am looking for the report, last report from EU, and you see only such on the distance that in EU connectivity of the school, we have only 50% school who has a good connectivity, fast broadband, but the other is a very low and without the connectivity. It's not good example for the future of the Europe. And I looking in the top is the Scandinavian countries. And it's Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland. And other countries looking be no many invest the last year, no many money invest to the infrastructure is a problem also in Slovakia. We invest in this 2000-2005 and next 10 years was investment zero, was invested more to the hardware. And I think that hardware is enough because we dreaming in the 2000, if I will have one PC in the classroom or one PC at home. Now I have 3 or 5 because we have mobile, tablet, laptop, and so. It's no problem about the hardware. Now there really is a problem about the content because we digitalize a lot of content for the education, but we don't increase the connectivity to put the data to the school, to the home, to the everywhere. And in Slovakia now is looking, we have the, maybe for future, 3 budgets. Is a national budget, EU budget, and the private budget. And if this 3 budget will be effectively joined together, I hope that Europe will be, for the education, will be grow up because education prepare for all sectors in society, the people. If the school have a potential and we use the potential for our future, it will be grow up all the economy, all the Europe activities. And this is a key point that we must join the stakeholders to the politics also looking that put the money to the infrastructure and to the humanware. Humanware because in Slovakia now we start the project that we also come to the rural area to help to put the internet to the home and so. But I ask sometimes, the people who are the older and middle-aged older people will be use this connectivity, have an experience with connectivity. We have the generation maybe on university. I realize some analyzing our university, we have only maybe 15% of young generation, and after the middle age and the baby boom is the oldest generation. And the white generation, only few of teachers in the university. And this is a problem that really if we don't prepare the future generation for the skills how to use the best connectivity and best software and data, maybe automotive data, and many examples we have in Slovakia. Slovakia is well known as the automotive now. We have the many automotive factories, and now many companies come to education. We realized 2 years before the big conference with the American Chamber of Commerce, and the many companies come and say, why don't change the education process that preparing the expert for the automotive technology? And we say, because it is about the infrastructure, about the software, about the training, the teachers. And this about the human values. Then I come back. And from my point of view, really, we have such potential in Europe. But we must realize, join together such private sector and the Euro budget and the national budget and collaborate together and to put money to very quickly change the high connectivity to the education and to the home.
Thanks, Beata. Well, having put the accent on the significance of automotive here in Slovakia, maybe I skip to François. Anything you can say on the skills side, of course, is very relevant, but I was, in any event, going to ask you about the technical challenges of dealing with gigabit connectivity and of using it for safety applications in automotive, your core issue.
That's, again, a global challenge. I mean, connectivity meets a challenge of security and privacy. These are, among other technical issues for automotive, like specific needs for delay, specific needs for service level agreement on these delays, but also on network coverage, because of course, vehicle and person are moving, so they need not a local connectivity, they need a global connectivity. Cross-border issue as well, so for the time being, we speak about roaming, for instance. But definitively, in all technical discussion, one major challenge is cybersecurity. Probably because it's not felt that there will be one day a final solution to cybersecurity, so we will have always to deal with it. So for IT devices which are having a short lifetime, like mobile phone, PCs and so on, which can be also upgraded. We know that we have Microsoft on board, you know how many upgrades we have every month due to security issues. That's not really easy for vehicles. So vehicles are submitted to very complex tests, and they need really to be in a very stable and safe environment. So it's not so easy to make software updates for vehicle. Yeah. So for vehicles, security is very complex. It's not only the access to the internet need to be protected, but also inside the vehicles there is need for protecting different devices. So there are a lot of actions, in particular in the Excel framework, to look at this security issue with European players like NXP, for instance. So that's definitively a technical challenge, but not only for automotive, of course, but very relevant for automotive. There is no place for best effort again. Every bug could lead to injury, fatality, so we speak about human life. Beyond this, privacy, so privacy is certainly always mixed together with security, but it's a bit different. Here we are, for the European Commission, confronted to an issue with policy regulation. But for instance, the FIS has made a study named My Car, My Data this year, and has stated that in this survey, 25% of users would be reluctant to use connected services for vehicle if there is no security feeling. Yeah? And that's very important for the user as well. They are very happy to share personal data on social network, but for vehicles, they are very careful. They are really trusting manufacturer, and they don't want to change this trust, opening security issues. So privacy is important, protection of company data, personal data, and anonymity is important. And the industry is also proposing the European Commission to set certain baseline for security and privacy, so that the industry can continue developing these connected services based on a trusted model.
Just allow me one follow-on question, and I asked about the challenges, and you presented them, but I take it that in your estimation, even if things like cybersecurity and privacy introduce a level of complexity in the way that the sector organizes its business, the gains available far outweigh the efforts required to confront those challenges. The game is worth the candle, as it were.
Yeah, of course. If it's about mobility application, that's acceptable. But the focus of DG Connect is also about automated driving, and there is really no compromise. I mean, it's not about gain. No vehicle will be put it on the market with any level of risk. I think that's the use of the car manufacturer.
Thank you, François. And finally, in this round, Marta, you explained the transformative effect on a variety of dimensions of having connectivity available for interactivity, for developing entirely new types of products such as virtual reality based. And so you underlined how dependent new creative opportunities are on much improved connectivity. Who bears the responsibility? Who are the key actors to actually make that happen, in your view?
Okay, I think there are several actors that are very important. First, industry actors. And when I talk about industry, I talk about the ones that create those infrastructures and content industry. I think it's very important to have a collaboration between both industries, because none of them will invest in the creation of the infrastructure or the creation of content unless they see there is a business, no? There is a market for it. So having these two, sides of the game, let's say, playing together, it's very important to understand each other and what are the needs that, for example, the content industry is going to need in that infrastructure, like, for example, in virtual reality. In fact, there is an initiative in Spain called Five Tonic, and what they're doing is that the main telco actors are trying to work with different industries in different sectors, not just games, but many other sectors, in order to understand exactly what are going to be the needs in the future. Of course, infrastructure has to go always like a step forward, because innovation won't come out unless you have the possibility of doing things. But I think it's very important that these two actors talk. Then another important actor are educational institutions. I completely agree with what you say, Beata. I think skilled professionals are essential. If we don't have the professionals, the skilled enough to first create those infrastructures, but of course we need professionals to implement those infrastructures into the different companies or industries, to digitize these industries, to use these infrastructures and to implement what they need to implement in order to make use of it. So the educational system needs to be flexible, needs to adapt to the needs. And it has to be from the very beginning. We have to start in schools, I'm not just talking about the professional level, which of course is a really need right now, but we have to start from the very, very beginning if we do want to have the capacity of building all these infrastructures and also developing all the content that has to go through these infrastructures, because just by building the infrastructure, we are not going to assure that it's going to be used. So this is the only way to have it. And then another important actor, of course, is the public institutions. We need to have the same connectivity around the whole Europe. No? As you said, there are different regions and very different kinds of connections. We have the rural sides, the city sides. So the governments are the only ones that are able to try to implement and to have the same opportunities for everyone in Europe. Also, we need to have, and I know the Commission is working on that, a data regulation, you know, in order to be possible to share all this data and to work with it. And of course, a trustable background. So people, you know, when you consume or you use a product, it's because you trust the infrastructure you have and you trust the company that is offering this service. So mostly I think I have all of that, because I mean the end user is the final big actor. No, everything is targeting the end user, so you have, you know, better entertainment and you have a better quality of life. So if we make sure that all the infrastructure is, you know, well developed, and we have, and this is very, very important, European content inside this infrastructure, then I think we can make it.
Thanks, Marta. One or two things I would draw from that is that if the internet, as we knew it, say 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, was something that happened almost by serendipity, and the connectivity through IP and internet access was put there, and remarkable innovative things happened. And those innovative things will continue to happen. But in a way, this has become so structural now for our societies and economies that collaborative work between whole sectors, which we sometimes, as I think François recalled, call the verticals, becomes very important in order to give infrastructure investors greater confidence that there is a demand case for sometimes major leaps in connectivity, and of course to give other sectors foresight that if they invest in what will ride on top, that the infrastructure will be there to carry it at scale throughout Europe, not just in Sweden, but in Sicily, and in communities in between. Well, let's now take it in order to give food for thought to our various co-panelists. Everyone in the room is a panelist for the next round. I would like to ask each of you to prompt the discussion that will follow with a very short answer to the question. It can be as little as 3 keywords. In fact, it's better if it's just 3 keywords. The question, what do we need to make the European Gigabit society happen? Now, I've been going from my right to left, so let's change the order. François, your keywords, please. And the winner is?
You know, we have no right for bags in automotive. So more than 3 words, 5, evaluate and address future needs now, so that we are having a suitable 5G network in 5 to 10 years.
That was more than 3.
Evaluate and address needs. That's, if you drop conjunctions, it's 3 words. If I'm not too much brutalizing your concept, François. But we can take the 10-word version.
Let's say future needs now, so that
Future needs now. Okay, that's super clear. Marta.
I would say collaboration, education, and innovation.
Beata.
Marta said my words, but I add that is a creativity, connections, the education with the praxis and private sector, and put a lot of money for the all generation of the people, young, middle, and old one, to educate it.
So, something for all generations. Nicolas.
3 words. Share best practices between countries and regions. And public sector support through development of PPPs and selective funding support.
Okay, I'm writing as fast as I can, but I think I got that one. And finally, Jan.
It's very nice from you to let me to be the last one. Everybody used my words.
Well.
No. Okay, but
anything that confirms the others gets the concept extra points, so don't worry about that.
I have different, sorry for that. But anyway, I'm happy that I have more than 3, and I'm not just the one who has more than 3. Okay, so attitude and skills, safe infrastructure, and now the most buzzword ever, single. By that I mean no fragmentation and common standards and so on, but you can keep it as a single. That's all, that's it.
We at the European Commission like single. If you put digital in front and market afterwards, then we really like it, but single is also good.
Well, okay, still, we might need some European support, so it's good to be polite, but it was really what I meant.
Excellent. We have, I think, quite some food for thought there for what follows. I will call on Nancy Pascall now, whom I think many of you have met at the beginning, to come and explain our next duties to us in a format which is intriguingly described as World Café. And then I will ask my other colleague, Jorgita Zamaitita, to fill us in on how we're doing in the Twitter sphere. But first, Nancy, what do you expect of us? Do you need a mic?
I have a very loud voice, but still. You are all sitting in 10 different tables. And at each table there is a question. The questions are 1 per table, they are the same. So what you are going to do is actually choose which question you would like to discuss. It is extremely easy what we are going to do. We are having 10 tables, 5 questions. Maximum 10 people per table. You are going to stay at each table only for 1 round. After 20 minutes, you are all going to change except your host, who is going to introduce himself or herself to you, and who is going to stay to actually discuss with the group that follows you what has been discussed before. There will be 3 rounds of 20 minutes or 19. At the end of those 3 rounds, you are all going to actually have decided on 3 actions per table. Then the 2 tables are going to come together and decide on the 3 main actions per questions, which we are going to vote for by the raise of hands, I'm afraid, because technology slightly failed us. And then we are going to have, Anthony actually is going to work on that, 3 main questions which we are going to put on the main board. If you could move the thing. Those are the questions, but you are going to have a link where you can go and vote for the three main questions. This is after the questions which you are going to see now. The three first questions is how we are going to enhance the political buy-in, the strategic objectives of the Gigabit society. Then, how are we going to identify new stakeholder groups at national and regional level in order to drive and support the implementation of Gigabit society? The third one is, what do stakeholders expect the Commission to do in order to facilitate the implementation of the three strategic objectives? Question number 4 is, the Commission is intending to set up a platform involving the Committee of the Regions and other players. How are we going to best use it in order to serve stakeholder needs? And the final question is, how are we going to make sure that no one is left behind and we have an inclusive Gigabit society? So these are the questions you choose and you work upon. I have to say that if you have problem with English, there will be Slovak speakers in the different tables which will be willing to help you translate. And, of course, the question we need to answer above everything else is the one that Anthony dealt with. What do we need to make the European Gigabit society a reality? So, the three options will come out at the end of the workshop, and you are going to vote on the link we have got up there until tomorrow lunchtime, I think. And if you have any problems, ask your hosts. Your Gita will actually talk to you about Twittering.
So, thank you, Nancy. My own experience tells me that when you gather highly professional and intelligent people and you talk about things that involve moving around the room, it is worthwhile just to repeat it a second time. As I have understood it, and I speak under Nancy's control, there is a stable host on each table. That person knows who he or she is and will identify themselves. Please don't be shy. Everyone else starts at the table they are currently sitting on. We panelists will go and join our table. We'll move after 20 minutes to a second one and after another to a third, so that everyone gets to interact on 3 of the 5 questions that Nancy just read out. After that, there's some back office stuff that I will understand by the end of all that, which will produce outcomes and summaries of table conclusions that you will vote on. So before we do that, Jurgita will tell us what we or those outside the room have been up to on Twitter, and then there will be a small, what was very prudishly described in my speaking notes, there will be a small service break. Jurgita.
So you were very active on Twitter. As you can see on our Twitter wall, we have the latest 20 tweets running around, but we had more than 70 tweets in the last hour on Gigabit Society. And they have a couple of questions from Twitter. Might be panelists or might be people who are discussing at the tables can answer. So Peter Gazik is asking free Wi-Fi, free roaming, free, excessive public intervention versus private sector, not heard about the role of operators much. And Rui Barroso makes a following question: make financial instruments territory-based and not sectorial or national-based to avoid digital divide, aggregate locally. And the most popular tweet was of Anna, who said that financing of key importance to PPP, but knowledge and attitude also very important, that our speaker, Jan Kubalik, expressed earlier several times. And one great thing, the support, is Damir Medved supports broadband competence offices. We had several tweets about those offices saying what a great idea. So that's all from Twitter. Keep tweeting. And as Nancy said about the polls and questions, at the end you will have a slide after your discussion how to access polls. So you will have a code, the password, and then you can vote until tomorrow's plenary session. That's all.
Do you mind signing the presence list? There is one going around, so we would know who was in the workshop, and we will keep you informed for future activities. So, service break, not comfort break, because we are going to do some work in the meantime.
So, thank you, Nancy and Jorgita. Thank you very much to the panelists, although your work has not ended, as you know. Let's meet at our respective tables at 10 minutes past 4. Thanks very much. doesn't change the NGA definition in the guidelines, because we were not free to do that without public consultation. And changing state aid guidelines is unfortunately not something you can do overnight. I mean, what we have defined is very high capacity networks in order to show there is
because they don't know if to turn
a factor or the type of network even more desirable, and which would constitute a further step change relative to basic networks. This is a commission internal thing, so it's not good enough information for you, but our freedom we were simply told we could not change the broadband state guidelines by commission investors. We did what we could in the constraints. What I think would be useful, because we meet occasionally and you are in touch with but it may be useful to have a trilateral conversation so that we are able to be clear about the respective roles that we don't have. I mean, the message.
But only in France, this is the sad question. Maybe I can. Okay.
Must have the conditions to track fibers money. Stable regulation. That explain you cannot just let the market work. We know in the whole area the market doesn't work. We need to organize if you don't do anything in cities, you have over-investment, several methods of technology. In the rural area, you can have this organized. In the very dense area, organized competition. In the medium dense area, organized mutualization. In the rural area, organized practices. the model which is more or less
You mean, sorry, Pedro, higher levels of not simplifying.
No, it's
that's going to be lovely. What's interesting, just to is there an emphasis for one rather than the other? Will make or is it so one would say European okay. The other so it's a very local political I don't personally, So in terms of the scope, the frame,
But this is why we have to have it. one of the main, most really difficult problems where it affects to most people. And it's linked to infrastructure investment. Future. Yeah, it's one of the points, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, if we are talking about connectivity, about the need of connectivity to approach people, to foster in economic activity. Well, yeah. Some focus on the areas.
You have 1 more minute before you change.
One interesting question about public money and state has not been raised here, but I think some we have to talk about. This is the question of state aids and how to implement state aids, and sometimes how to pass the rather complicated procedures in the European Commission to get the approval for state aid, because they don't sometimes take into mind the difficulties of the investment, the difficulties of the state, and a revision of the state aid guidelines is something that we must
There are so many tables that will come on. Are you ready? I'll start turning in a minute. So are you all sitting comfortably because we start?
Spread around several hills around.
selling diesel. So, for instance, as electric infrastructure, and so people would they use warehouses? Would you use but then you just and they say, no, anything. So that was interesting. So they went with their baby from Fischer partner, and the doctor was like, look at that lady, that was the hospital. And they were all over the place. You know what I mean? But I didn't know how to, you know, so there's a lot of aspects like But the EU you know what I
You are only going to have 15 minutes, so start working.
Keep on going.
You are only having 15 minutes.
I don't want to switch the take the obligation that's what we need to show.
I'm just throwing ideas, and this is the
how much more taxes the government is going to have to raise in the future.
Okay, time is up. Time is up. Put all the questions 5 go there in order so you can decide. So you can decide on your 3 actions of development. We go to the table where Anna is guiding. Take your board and go over there and decide on your 3 actions all together. The 3 actions you are going to present to the plenary. Put everybody question 3. Come to this table so you will all decide together. Question 3.
We don't know the last people.
You and question 5. You go over there. Take your board, you go over there. Question 1. Is there another one? I don't think so. So question One, are you ready? You are ready. So you prepare to present. Question 4. Is there another question? No. It's okay, so you decide with yourself. Decide your free action.
The issue of
Are you ready? Can you bring your
Question number one, related to the political issue. So question. Thank you. So question number one related to the political agenda and the political issue, and basically was, how are we going to enhance political buy-in into the strategic objectives of the Gigabit Society? So the first round, which discussed the framing of the question, simply put, and I apologise for all the scribble, it was a very active group, but I'll just pick out the key points. The headline and the baseline start generally was felt by everybody that politicians may now understand what broadband overall and what Gigabit Society is, but there's still a lot of work to make sure they get it. So the baseline to getting any buy-in is making sure that the politicians get what this is about, which is not about ICT and infrastructure. It's about economic and social outputs and dramatic transformational change from those outputs and the way you can achieve them. To do that, where we said that needed to happen, what kind of political level, it was generally agreed that was at all political levels, from European Parliament through Commission down to the smallest municipality, but the emphasis, knowing the emphasis of where the key enablers in your own member state political landscape was very important, because those, where that key is, means that's where you need to put the emphasis of the focus on how to make it change, how to get that buy-in, and how to get that understanding, and therefore how to get that buy-in. In some member nations, particularly the smaller member states, a top-down approach probably would work. In others, it may be a bottom-up approach because of the level of authority given to member states. But in quite a lot of others, it's both. The scope was through policy to delivery, and the range, which is very important, was about conceptual action through to actual ownership of the delivery and the outcomes. The issues that generally we felt that rose in terms of how politicians are not getting it and what they do with it are threefold. One is information. Thanks, Anna. Number one was insufficient engagement with the communities and the interested parties to make that buy-in real for them. Engagement with communities about the benefits of this. Engagement with the economic innovators, so that's the silo breakers. It's not just how does this change the automotive industry, how does this change shopping. It's how does this change that entire commercial market. So they have to think outside of a box, which they've been thinking inside of. The third is to then realise that obviously there's some engagement with their own public service, their own public services and the offices in those, and there's some understanding of the benefits, e-government, etc., but there isn't really any engagement with the change impact of those changes on those public services, such that there's no flow through. So they see the fear from a health worker who finds somebody's wearing a wearable that tells their blood pressure. They don't actually look at that agenda all the way through, and that's very important that that's joined up. The second challenge is a goal-focused thinking, and we may be guilty of this, within our own communities, from a Gigabit society, of where we have driven goals to get a focus on things which politically have been translated into something to get ticked. Or to justify why it hasn't been ticked, rather than what the real long-term and ongoing development is from that. It's a case of saying, how do we use goal-focused, how do we use goals effectively on a much longer, bigger journey, way beyond the political timescales. Third and last, it's about understanding the utilisation, the business case, the drive and the purpose behind doing it. So they have a purpose that fits with what they understand when they talk to those communities. Translating those into the actions, we said there were fundamentally three. One, a perfect example from Austria that came out, talked to the lower Austrian people about this, but it's not about pre-broadband coordination. It's about not letting it be pure public servant-led, apologies. It's making sure the right experts look at the whole area. In their case, it was technical, commercial and legal, and then use a local authority, the local politicians as the sales force for the message. Mayors as salespeople. More case studies of infrastructure leading to different, not just more economic growth. The impact of the road on rail, the impact of the 21st century global economy on road, and how whenever you invest in any one of those infrastructures, that grew massively, and then there was a step change. It comes back to the understanding, we're on the step change, we don't think they get it. So they need more case studies on that. And last but not least, we actually said embrace, to use the Rumsfeld phrase, embrace the unknown unknowns. Because this will allow politicians, obviously, to actually get vote-winning tactics. They'll be able to get concepts that they can sell, which have direct benefits, sure, but it also gives them things to look really far ahead with, thinking ahead of the game to the things they can't possibly see. Start helping them to future this themselves. And then link it back, as they would all love to do, to vote-winning tactical and strategic answers. We actually said make sure they all have something in there that says we're doing this for our kids. Thank you.
Okay, that's the vote time. We voted then.
Okay. We have question too, but please, the reporting is supposed to be about 1 to 1.5 minutes. And you have to remember that this reporting stands between yourself having a drink and a good time. So the shorter it is, the faster we finish, the more efficient we are, and the better rewarded.
Okay, and the 3 actions are, I'm going to summarize it. Yep. Politicians as salespeople, more case studies, embrace the unknown unknowns. Please don't vote for this one because I don't know how to implement it.
Question number 2, please. Who is going to report on question number 2? Come on.
Okay, thank you. I will be very shortly. I hope so. We put one basic question, and there is create and promote national platform for discussion and cooperation, because we discuss about the public sector, private sector, and internet service provider, also about the users. And to put together is in this time and previous time was very difficult, and I think our idea to put together one new platform on national level. And for this first point would be good to promote demand and aggregation locally, because the local part and is very important market, and the local part for the broadband access, there is many places is lack of broadband access, and would be support. And third one, share experiences between all groups. These two second points, and third one will support this first one. That's all. Thank you.
That was very quick. Thank you.
Question number 3. Short.
1.5 minutes.
I'm making a stretch.
Oh, wonderful. That's implementable then. Okay, so our question was, what do stakeholders expect the Commission to do in order to facilitate the implementation of the 3 strategic objectives as it was presented already today at the beginning of this workshop? We got really intensive discussion about that topic, and are coming out 3 actions, which is my big pleasure to present you. The first one is to transpose strategic objectives to demand stimulation plans or demand-side benefits, and to be done that by member states. The second one, to align funding policies towards 3 strategic objectives, and also, which is quite important part, to align state aid policy to enable achievement of 3 strategic objectives as defined. Including one important aspect, that alignment should be done across all involved DGs in the process. The third one is about aligning the sector regulation of non-ICT sectors to enable digitalization and Gigabit society. Underline that we would like to call in general for bridging the gap among the stakeholders, and this second one means that the DG's alignment is already included in the second action. So these are 3 actions. What is below the line? Please just understand as a kind of a framing conditions or framing proposals. Thank you.
Question number 4. So we have 2 actions, but the first one is 2 actions inside.
So the question was, the Commission is intending to set up a platform involving the Committee of Regions and other players. How are we going to best use it in order to serve stakeholders' needs? We discussed all these words, and we concluded that, yes, the platform, it has to be flat hierarchy, whatever. I will pass the notes later, but yes, it is a good tool, a good action to be closer to the people in the regions. So, and yes, it is a good action to help to stimulate the demand. We identified that a platform only is not a good action to improve the involvement of the industry, and that we identified that the industry is asking for a more fluid debate with the decision makers, and we haven't identified an action to do so, but we have a call to do something to enable a more fluid debate with the industry.
Excellent. Thank you.
Question number 5.
So the question number 5 is about the how are we going to make sure that no one is left behind and we have an inclusive Gigabit society? And it refers to the opening statement from Jan Kubalik about rural access to the rural areas where the kids were crying. So this is, I think, important. Three main actions that we have identified. We're trying to merge different groups' proposals, and three main areas we have identified are relating to policies, where we were discussing about the demand-driven policies versus subsidy, incentive-driven policies, about the importance, we were discussing about the importance of education, digital skills, tell the story, and the importance of stable regulatory framework. These policies will allow investments which will address market failures and gaps, efficient investments, importance about action about to plan and map economical way meaningful investments. And the third action point is on working on quality content with the EU original content. So these were the three main actions we have tried to merge between two groups. Thank you.
Okay. Well, apparently I'm the last person that holds you from the drinks, so I will try to just share with you what I have heard today. First of all, thank you very much. I think that it's extremely important to that the panelists tell us what their experience is, and that you tell us what you believe we should be doing going forward. Why is connectivity important? I think we all know, but perhaps we are not telling the story right. It does improve the quality of life. It does give us an equal opportunity, starting, enjoying modernity, enjoying innovation, enjoying new services. It does contribute to the development of economy, and perhaps it will actually transform entirely the way we see economy today. So we are digitalizing society, we are digitalizing activities, we are digitalizing services, we are digitalizing industry, but overall, we are transforming the way we behave, we work, we enjoy ourselves, we work, we actually consume leisure, but perhaps in the future we will also transform ways in which we will be consuming health services, and perhaps the way the society will be organized. On the funding, we've heard quite a lot about the importance of financing and preparing investments in partnership between public and the private sector. Because a good chunk of benefits that we have out of a Gigabit society will have to be funded by that partnership. Neither part can do it on its own. And the fact that we're doing it together brings a different group of risks, the different elements of technology, of volume, of size, and we need to very proactively see who can best mitigate these risks, who can best bring solutions from the area of strength on the public or on the private side. It is important that we share practices and we learn from each other. We've heard from many people, so we know that not everybody's got the same vision of what needs to be done, but there are lessons in all those elements of experience that you're bringing to these workshops, to other workshops, that you're bringing on our website, that you're willing to share. So please keep sharing that. We want to learn from everybody. And maybe in some areas, an element of this and an element of that can be brought together and find solution to something that may not have been possible to find solution for in the past. And finally, I think that is an exercise that we do quite often, but we need to be better at listening. We need to be better at listening about what people want and how people want to go about it. We kind of love our own ideas, so it is important that they are not dominating our way of thinking. I actually love the idea of the humanware. I think it was one of those things that we do not talk enough. And here, if I may bring the experience from the table on having an inclusive society, I thought, that we were discussing infrastructure because I every day discuss infrastructures, but we were actually not discussing infrastructure on this table. Most of the time, we were discussing about the fact that the services are not coming to the people, that we do not have a good story, that, we have this wonderful story of roaming because everybody understands what it is. And it actually benefits 12% of people in Europe. Not many people travel on a regular basis. So we know that there is something that we need to do to actually respond to this most important aspect, which is human in the paradigm shift that we are living through. There were issues of efficiency, effectiveness. There were issues of security and privacy. But all in all, I believe that this group actually brought very much forward the human side of the Gigabit society concept. We have plenty of challenges that we face, but we can face it together. It will be definitely driven by private sector, so the industry will bring its share, the new developers will bring its share, the financial interests are now emerging, so we're hoping they're going to bring good examples as well. But there is a need to involve also educational institutions, and all in all, the public institutions, but on the side of raising awareness and making people aware that the new generation may be needing different types of services than the one that is using the services today. I noted down all 5 ideas, all 5 groups, the 3 ideas per group. I'm sure that there was something planned, but since I didn't have a chance to pick it up from Anthony, who had to be speaking in another workshop, let me just say that on the Okay. What are we going to find, Nancy, on the website for voting?
I would like to tell you, I have been listening and taking notes from the actions. As we don't really have enough time to vote on what you have suggested, what I did, I brought all the ideas together, and I came up with 3 questions for which I would, if you agree, of course, I would like you to vote which one you consider more important in the www.manticom, etc., where I'm going to put the 3 options. The first one, and there is no priority, they are just in random order, is that it came out from question 1 and 2 and 4 and 5, I think, is the dissemination of best practices learn from each other across member states and regions. Do you agree with that as a question?
No.
I can't hear
As a
yes
suggestion.
enthusiastically. Yes, it's brilliant. No? Okay. The second one was promote demand by improving humanware. That is, improving the knowledge of the people for what connectivity is needed. Do you think it's clear enough, or we need to be more specific on this one? Do you agree with it? You are all very tired, I think. And the third one is, what is it? Involve all sectors, public and private, vertical and horizontals, i.e. the ICT sector as well as industry, to create the prosumer, as Anthony said, i.e. the user who is also the creator of the vision. And that is my suggestion out of what you all said.
Okay.
Any comments?
If someone feels terribly excluded from the 3 questions summarizing the discussion, there is always a possibility of sending us a specific suggestion, because we've noted the ones that were provided by the rapporteurs of the groups. These are the 3 ones we ask you to vote on, which one you like most, although they are very different, so I'm not sure you really want to give priority to them. We can also assume that you want us to follow all 3 of them, and we will see how we take it forward. So we... Okay, well...
I want the word humanware as well. Yes, and improve the knowledge of people. I want humanware inside the parentheses because it really is a new concept, but it's very interesting. And I can see here that you have already started voting.
Okay, I understand that the voting is open actually until lunchtime tomorrow. And we will get the results somewhere?
Yes, and that's why I have kindly asked all of you to sign the list so I can send you a nice report with everything that was discussed. I don't want to spam you with the results of that and everything else.
So who's got the list?
The list is on the table somewhere up there.
Okay.
Right? And if you don't mind actually signing, it would be great.
Okay, so where's the list?
It's up there.
Physically, okay? So the list is on this table. Please sign it so that we can get in touch with you. Okay, I can see that people are voting already. The humanware is in the second question. So as you see, we are taking over all ideas. But in order not to keep you from the well-deserved drinks, I just want to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for your ideas. Thank you very much for your involvement. And thank you very much for your energy. It was really a great event. I would like to pass the apologies from Anthony for disappearing a bit early, but he had to. I do my best to get into his shoes, which is really a great challenge. I would like all of you to give a big round of applause to Nancy, because she spent hours on making sure that it happens. We will pass, obviously, the results of this workshop to our hierarchy and to our decision makers. It is very useful for us to keep the flag going for the Gigabit Society. Thank you very much, and I'm sure I'm going to see you again before long.
On the 14th and 15th of November, we are having our D-Day. On the 14th are the Broadband Awards. Be sure you are there. We are the best show in town. So.
And it's not only us saying that.